Well, for the Roosters, they are now in danger of missing the finals after going down to the Storm at 30-16 at the SCG last night. It's a tough road ahead too for the Tricolours. They're likely to need to win 5 of their next 7 matches, and they have upcoming matches against the Broncos, Eels and Rabbits. Looking at performance last night, Joey, do you think they can do it?
No, I don't think they can do it. And purely, I think they've got a lot of injuries, in particular in the forwards. No one gets Crichton, Satili Tupanua, Siwa Takiaho. Look, they're all international rep players. No Connor Watson, who provides a lot of spark. And then last night they had no Tedesco, no Sam Walker. So they're missing key players. But something's missing there, obviously, with the players. But Freddie, what have you made of the Roosters' attack? What would you change?
Well, the first thing is their defence. They're chasing too many points. That's most probably the biggest problem. That's where all the pressure comes from. They actually had, I think they had about 6 or 7 line breaks. And I think Melbourne didn't have as many.
8-3.
8-3.
8-3. You've got to take your opportunities.
I think obviously, mate, like you just said, they've got so many people sitting on the sideline. That doesn't help you. That doesn't help your attack at all, and you've been changing it week in, week out. So that doesn't help either. But I just feel like when you watch them, they just don't look as fast as they used to. I don't know. When they come at the line, I don't feel like they're coming at 100 miles an hour, which means you're sort of not that confident.
You know what it's like. If you're not getting forward in the middle,
yeah.
It's so hard to attack on the edges. That they got Jared and Lindsay playing the front row, but when they go off, they just lack that punch. They'd go forward.
Yeah, 2 things for me. Obviously, the line break. 8-3, like you've got to take your opportunities, especially when you're playing a team like Melbourne. And it was 6-4 for 52 minutes. Yeah. This was the only try that Melbourne scored in the opening 52 minutes, and they scored a few late, but they were just resilient, Melbourne, and they hung in there, and they got the job done in the end. But the Roosters just need to take their opportunities. They've got Brandon Smith back. He'd been out for a couple of months. They've had a different halfback for the last few weeks, and it's just you've got to hang in there when times are tough, and you've got to take your opportunities when they're presented to you.
I think the other thing, I'd move Joseph back. I think he gets Joseph Sawali.
Where to move him back to the wing?
Move him back to the wing. I think he gets more ball. I think wingers are so important, and they can be such an addition to your team. You look at, say, a Brian Tyre, for instance, who can just come in and just make so many runs. I think at centre you're very limited what you can do. You sort of, because you've got to stay in the defence line, you don't really get back to get many great runs. And the times he did run, he nearly was the most dangerous in their team. He sort of got quick play the balls, busted the line, and could start creating. At winger, you get to do it an awful lot more. I just think he's just a little bit wasted in the centres.
Well, Trent Robinson's not going to give up on this season. There's still 7 games to go. What's he saying to his players? How does he motivate this group and instill belief in this group that they can go on and win 7 in a row and create a noise in the finals?
Well, I don't think it comes from Trent Robinson. It comes from his senior players. They're the ones out there in the trenches. I think it's the senior players who have got to challenge the rest of the group.
The ladder's the good part. They're still not that far out of the 8. So I think they're only actually 2 points. I think they're on 20, is that right? I think they're 2 points out of the 8. So, that's the beauty of any team that's sitting in their sort of position at the moment is, they're only 2 points out of the 8.
Storm were good. Storm is a typical Storm performance. They were gritty in defence. They hung in. As you spoke about, the Roosters had 8 line breaks, but the scramble was there. They all worked together. They all know their jobs. It was a Melbourne Storm performance.
And their origin players really stood up. Harry Grant was great. Cameron Munster, Xavier Coates scored 3 tries. I think Will Warbrick's come along in leaps and bounds this year. He's become a real elite winger, doing a great job on that right-hand side. Nick Meady's doing a fantastic job at fullback, and they've got a lot of hard-working forwards that just go out there and get the job done every week.
Did you know much about Monsters?
Isn't he a carpet layer now? A carpet layer thing.
They protect it. Yeah. Did
Got
you know much about this one?
No, I didn't. I think he had a few stitches in his knee, up to a dozen, I think. So must have been a nasty cut. So to get out there and back up for his team was a big effort, and he performed well as well.
We did see Victor Radley put on report. He wasn't sent to the sin bin for the elbow on Cameron Munster, and the match review committee has released its findings this morning. It is just a fine that he has received. Do you think that's the right move?
Yeah, I think so. It's just reaction. He saw Cameron Munster coming in. It's just natural that you're going to brace.
It's been pretty common, actually. There's one with Tino. There's one early in the day.
Yep, Selwyn Cobbo.
Did he get fined, Selwyn?
Actually, let me have a look. He did get, well, he obviously did get sent to the sin bin for his one as well.
Victor played well on the edge, didn't he? I liked him running a bit wide.
Good leg speed, Victor. He's quick.
Yeah, there was one in the Bulldogs game with Selwyn Cobbo, and I think this is the danger.
He wasn't cited at all.
Wasn't cited at all. Well, he went to the sin bin. I think this is the real danger of taking the injury into account. Well, the referees thought that Toby Sexton stayed down from the contact with Cobbo, but it was actually an accidental knee
on the way
going down to the ground. So, when the referees see an injury, they actually take it into consideration. And I actually was sitting at home thinking, well, I don't think he should have been sin binned for that.
Well, we'll be looking.
He's got sin bin because the bunker is tipping to the ref. The ref has a feel on the field how bad the incident is. So, once again, I think the bunker should only be used on try scoring.
All right, we'll have a close look at that Selwyn Cobbo sin bin from yesterday afternoon, but we're very excited about the beginning of the NRLW season. So as we head to the break, let's have a look at one of the brightest stars, Jesse Southwell. Well, this week's Manshake Gutsiest Player of the Week award goes to the Cowboys fullback Scott Drinkwater, making it 5 tries in 4 games. What a performance it was from him last night against the Seagulls at Brookie, and his week just goes from strength to strength. He's one of the nominees for the RLPA Player of the Month award, and he's actually also the winner of it. So congratulations to Scott Drinkwater, announced as the Player of the Month as Freddie gets stuck into the Manshake bars right
Yeah, bit hungry.
Bit hungry. All right, well, let's look at the Cowboys and their win over the Seagulls, because that was the Cowboys' 5th straight win after what was a pretty tough start to the year for the club. What a turnaround it's been.
This was a really good game. Dean Madison there scored a try. So happy for him. He's such a good young fella.
On debut.
But, geez, it was a high-quality game. The Cowboys are making their run, timing it perfectly.
Can you see them getting there?
If they get the top 4, they definitely can win it. Definitely.
Yep.
If they're fully fit. They can't win it outside the top 4. I think he was the difference in the end. Scott Drinkwater, he's lightning.
Bill, do you agree?
Yep, definitely. They're nearly full strength. Lukey to come back into the team. The one thing that's been impressed me over the last 3 weeks is they've only conceded 14 points. They've put on a whole heap of points, about 126, I think, but conceding 14 points, that's what they hung their hat on last year. That's what got them success. And if they can continue that defensive, and then they showed a whole heap of that resolve on their try line against Manly, that's the key to the Cowboys, because they've got so much strike, led by Scott Drinkwater. He's a brilliant player, and he's playing with a lot of quality in his game at the moment. But yeah, that defence is key for them.
I think the key is also they've got attack everywhere. You've got Val Holmes in the centres. You've got Taumalolo on a few of them through the middle.
Back rowers.
Their back rowers are strike weapons. Taulagi on the wing. Obviously, as I spoke about, the fullback, great speed. So the one thing you do notice with the top teams is they don't just attack from one point of the field.
Well, for a long time, their performances rode on the back of Taumalolo's go forward. I wouldn't say he's quiet, but he doesn't stand out as much because their forward pack is so good. Them young back rowers, Nene and Lukey, wow, they're players.
Finafuiaki.
Oh, what about him?
Yeah.
What do you think has been the big turning point for them? Because, as I mentioned before, the start of their season, everyone wrote them off, but they still struggled a little bit when they had those players back in the side.
Well, the World Cup, they were back late for training. I think a couple of the players, I think Jeremiah Nene, I heard him say his off-season wasn't as good as the last. They had great success last year. It's only natural that if you drop your guard a little bit, 5%, collectively, as an individual, collectively, as a group, if that happens, then you're going to drop. But they got their head on now.
Yeah, I think Chad Townsend's back to where he was last year. He didn't start the year overly well, and Tommy did, and he's just a tenacious little competitor, and everyone's performing their role at the moment. They're all doing their job, and they've all got a lot more fitness about them, a lot more confidence about their football, and they're a wonderful, wonderful team. I had them in the grand final at the start of the year, and I was quite surprised how they started the season, but they're back to where they should be, and they're going to have to continue this to make the finals. But if they can make the finals, they're as dangerous as anyone.
What about Manly? Where are they at?
Well, I think the scoreline was a fair indication of the game. They competed for a big part of it. It was 12-8, I think. Phil, goal kicking hurt them early. They scored both their tries out wide, and that sort of kept them further away from the scoreline than I thought they were. I think they're more spirited at Brookvale, without a doubt, and they need to improve that. But, yeah, they're a tricky one. I think they're on the fringe. I can't see without Tom.
Well, stating the obvious, without Tom.
Without
Ruben
Tom.
Garrick was their best last night, but he's not Tom.
Yeah, but then he's on the wing. That's what, you know what I mean? Like, if you get Tom, then got Ruben, who's been quality for a couple of years now, and then someone else moves in, and all of a sudden your team's just got a little bit more quality,
One player in particular, Brad Parker. You know what you're going to get every week. Every week, win, lose or draw, you get a 7 out of 10. Then occasionally you get an 8 out of 10, but you never get a 6 or a 5. He does his job every week. He's tough. He defends so well.
Defensively.
He's an underrated player.
Yeah,
He does his job every week.
But where they're sitting at the moment, so Manly currently 11th, but they've got Sharks next week, then the Dragons, then the Roosters, and then the Panthers as well.
It's a pretty good run. If you're sort of looking there thinking you're a chance, some teams there playing without confidence. How many of them at home?
Don't know.
Oh, righto.
Newcastle's got a really good rate.
You're good. I'm going to catch you out later.
Sorry, I didn't mean that.
There's a ladder there.
So they're on 21 at the moment. Can you see them turning it around and doing so quickly?
They'd have to win a couple of games where they weren't supposed to. I'd say no. And the differentials, Paul.
Well, have a look at the top 8 and who's going to drop out for them.
Yeah. Well, the top 9. I said it off the top of the show. From Knights down, they've lost more games than they've won. And if you're sitting in round 20 and you've lost more games than you've won, you're going to really struggle to make the finals.
Someone that you touched on earlier, Dean Madison.
Yeah.
So try on debut. 25 years of age, he waited to make his NRL debut. Did debuts get much better than that?
Scoring.
Obviously, the win would have helped,
So
but
good. And I saw some pictures after the game with his brother Ryan and his mum. A really good family. I see them all the time. They work with disadvantaged youth. See them down the beach. And do they work for?
no, they've got their own.
They've got their own.
They do some work outside of the NRL, helping community access for people of all abilities.
Yeah, I see them all the time. They're a great two. Ryan Madison and Dean. He's a good young man.
He came on at a scrum and had to defend it 2 in off a scrum from the middle of the field. I'm just thinking, this is just awful. This is your worst case scenario, the hardest place to defend anywhere. And he actually made a crucial tackle, and the next set of 6 he scored. So
That was on Val Holmes. I think they an error off the back of it.
Well, Ryan Madison scored on debut as well.
Did he really? Wow.
For the two of them. What a weekend it was for the Madisons.
Kooky.
All right, we'll stay with us. Coming up on the Sunday Footy Show, we're going to be talking all things the Bulldogs and the Broncos. What an afternoon it was for Josh Reynolds as he farewelled the Bulldogs. He was such a big part of that club. You speak to so many Bulldogs fans and they just loved him because he put in effort every single moment that he was on that field.
He's a competitor, wasn't he? Wasn't it fitting that it was at Belmore? Last game. It would have been nice if he played first grade.
Yeah,
something. A little part of me just wished he ran out in the first grade team. But yeah, fitting that he played at Belmore last game. He was a real competitor for that club.
The crowd knows, like the fans know. Some of the best players at clubs walk away not to a reception like that. But they know what he's like, what he thought about the club and what he did for the club. So to see, the last time he left the Bulldogs and then to come back and do it again, that was just awesome.
Yeah, an afternoon he won't forget. But it was unfortunate that the Broncos spoiled the party in the end in the NRL game with a 44-24 win. It was relatively close early on in the game, but the scoreline blew out in the end. What did you make of this one, Joey?
I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. Brisbane, I don't think Brisbane were right on early. They were a bit wobbly. He was the difference. Adam Reynolds, he got them back. But, no, I thought they showed some really good signs, the Bulldogs. Averillo had a really good first half. But in the end, the class shone out. I thought Reynolds was great.
Cobbo had a couple of touches too where he was just too strong.
Geez, he's a good player.
Cameron Ciraldo used the word amateurish in his post-match press conference, and I think he was referring to a couple of the tries from dummy half. There were a couple of really easy tries
They got to get
from
those
dummy
soft
half,
tries.
and that's the immaturity and the inexperience of the team shining through right there. You know, those little tries, that easy 12 points, that just brings you back into the contest. And you know, when you're down and out and you haven't got the quality of players of some of the other teams, like Adam Reynolds and the like, you really need to be on your game defensively in those areas. So, yeah, interesting that Cameron Ciraldo used that word in the post-match.
Adam Reynolds, I mean, his performance yesterday and what he's been, able to do for the Broncos, how highly have you rated his performances of late, but also just in general for this Brisbane team?
Well, he's in career best form, and that's saying something. You want a comp at South. I think he's loving playing behind this young forward pack. They got some, even with Payne out, you could see some of the young players coming through. But he's steering them around, and the big thing for Adam, they're winning the close games. Or, well, that game yesterday could have gone either way after 40, 50 minutes, but he stood up, got him home.
It goes to show, like, our game is about size, strength, athleticism, but if you don't have control and game smarts, you've got nothing. And Adam Reynolds brings that to the Broncos, who are this young, got great size, got great strength, and they've got great athleticism. And then you've got Adam Reynolds in the middle just pulling or pushing all the buttons. He's a really important cog to the Broncos this year.
What'd you make of Tristan Saylor at fullback?
I think he's done a really good job over the last few weeks in the absence of Reece Walsh. Reece will be back next week, and he'll make the Broncos a better team. But I think Tristan's done a really good job. He's been rewarded, with an extension on his contract. He's signed there for another couple of years. That ball there, that just shows the class. He got in that situation and he just felt he had to pull that trigger, and it was the right one. So he's done a great job. Got a beautiful little kicking game. He put a couple of these in. So there's Big Dell in the crowd.
I remember asking Wendell when he first started, I said, what's he lack? He goes, he just lacks a bit of confidence and self-belief. I looked at Wendell, just started laughing.
He had a high standard of that.
Reece Walsh, he will be back this coming week against the Rabbitohs because the Broncos actually applied to have Game 3 of State of Origin come under his suspension, and they were successful in doing so.
Well, he would have been there for Game 3 in Origin, so that's how it works. Yeah.
And there was also one incident as well with, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but Selwyn Cobbo sent to the sin bin for this moment with the elbow on Toby Sexton. What did you make of that one, Bill? Do you think that the sin bin was a little bit too harsh?
Yeah, initially when I was watching it at home, look, there's definitely contact, to the face, and I can see a penalty there, but a sin bin. If you watch closely now, just watch the knee of Cobbo collect Toby Sexton. That's what created the injury, and that's what created for Toby Sexton to stay down and the match officials to look at it again. The play went on, and they went back to that point after Toby stayed down. So I think it's dangerous practice actually taking the injury into consideration when you're making these penalties.
Did you like that he was roaming?
I can see a penalty there.
He wasn't just staying on the wing, he was getting into fullback, he was getting on the left side.
He was playing in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a great development and learning curve for Selwyn actually to defend in the middle of the field and understand what it's like in there and what those forwards have to do. So I think it's going to be a great experience for him. How long that happens for now, I'm not too sure. They'll get Carrigan. I think Flegler's a chance to come back. Payne Haas and obviously Reece Walsh. So they're going to be pretty much full strength. So I don't know if he'll be roaming around too often now.
And in that incident there, we did see Toby Sexton. He failed his HIA. How much did that hurt the Bulldogs not having him come back onto the fold?
Yeah, well, his direction. He won him the game last week, come up with a great play, but just his direction, he's come in, he's unscarred. You know, he's got a good opportunity down there. He was sitting behind a few players at the Titans, so it was disappointing. And you could see the players they dropped a little bit when he went off. They lost their, their leader, so that hurt.
How big of a signing was he for them, especially at this point of the season? As you said last week, he brought so much change. Also
the other way, how good is it for him? Like, look at the opportunity it is for Toby. As Billy said before, they've got a few players on the sideline. I don't think we've seen anywhere near their best team on the field. We see glimpses of it. The coach most likely nailed it. They're amateurish still at the moment. So, he's a chance of getting a good opportunity at a club it's a strong club, just haven't had the success that everyone's hoped for, obviously. So it's a great opportunity for him.
You can see that the day that they do become successful, it's going to be an incredible party. They sold Belmore out on the week. I think it was 17,000 people at Belmore Oval. It's one big club, and when they do get that success, it's going to be.
Do you feel it's close?
Party.
Are they closing in on it, or is it still a fair bit away?
Well, the Broncos show you how close it can be. A couple of key signings, a few pre-seasons together, you can turn it around pretty quick.
Stephen Crichton next year is going there. He'll play fullback by all accounts.
Kick-out's a huge one, and they've lost their front row. The Pommy bloke. Luke Thompson, he hasn't been there the whole year. They've some big losses there.
Don't run an Ogre or Willie Mason in training.
Serious.
All right, we'll stick around because coming up after the short break, we'll be looking at the Knights and their win over the Tigers on Friday night in Newcastle. Yes, they certainly do remain a possibility. They're just on the cusp of the top 8 at the moment after that 34-18 win over the Tigers. Joey, how would you sum up that Newcastle performance?
I think they got the job done. They're coming off a bye, so look, everyone in rugby league knows the Tigers are struggling. And in a mad rugby league town like Newcastle, everywhere the players would go, people would be saying, oh, you got the Tigers, you're going to smash them this week. And it can be hard to hold that steely edge, but they got the job done. After 15 minutes, it looked like it was going to be 60-odd, but to the Tigers' credit, they hung in. Sean Bloor came on the field and turned him, and he's done that for the last couple of weeks. But it wasn't a great performance by Newcastle, but they got the win.
What did you make of the Tigers, Freddie? Because there was one point there where, like Joey said, it looked like it could have not gone their way.
They're very similar to Canterbury, I suppose. At times they show they've, they compete. They've got a couple of really classy players. The fullback's a gun. He saves them and scores them. But then at other times you some fundamental errors and some fundamentals let them down. A bit lazy at times, but a bit like Canterbury.
I think one of my favourite moments from this game was Tyson Gamble scoring the try as the...
Adam O'Brien's
and it was Adam O'Brien's face.
I love when we interviewed him after, and first question, I thought he was going to pass out.
What would Adam be saying to Tyson this week at training?
I'd be hammering him, without a doubt.
Just a look.
First off, he'd say, Tyson, concentrate. Watch me, just for 10 seconds. He'd be possibly like this. He's a character, Tyson.
And we did see as well Jack Hetherington sent to the sin bin for the slap.
Well, stupid, but it's the second time Jack's done this, and you can't do it. And look, he was baited by Will Smith, and he gives him an open hand slap. But Jack's got to be better than that.
You know what?
You've got to be better than that.
Take the penalty off him. He had the penalty. Give the penalty to the Tigers.
But, mate, that's the rule. It's a hard and fast rule. You can't slap him in the face. And simple as that. Jack's got to be better. And he knows. It's the second time. He did it at Penrith this year. You just can't do it. And come at the end of the year or in a big match moving forward, if you do that and you get sin bin, cost your team the game, then there's going to be hell to play. But he's got to get some control over his own, because you know what? Off the field, he's the nicest young bloke. He gets on there and gets a bit of red mist about him. He's just got to be able to have tools to slow himself up.
What are the tools? How do you? What can you do?
You're not asking the right person. Yeah, ask him.
What can you do during the week if you're like at training or whatever in the lead up to help you be able to control your emotions when it comes to these, big moments on the field?
Oh, I'm sure there's things that you could do during the week that could help you, but it's in those moments. And in those moments, you need to be channeling your focus and your energy into what you need to, and that's your footy. You need to take yourself away from these situations and think about your footy. And
it can be very difficult because this is his nature. And I understand he gets really nervous before the game. So sitting on the bench on the interchange probably wouldn't help, Jack, where you're sitting watching and you're getting all nervous and full of angst. And then this happens.
And in these situations, you're thinking about yourself and the confrontation that you're having. You've got to start thinking about your teammates and what the team needs.
And you could see the shots of him in the sheds when he was waiting, he knew exactly.
He knew the moment he did it. Like, it was a reaction for him, and that's what he's got to try and control.
The best way to describe this game, it was like a cat playing with a mouse, where the cat knew the mouse, he had it, he just, here it is here. Here's the Knights game, Friday night. The Knights had the Tigers, and they just, for a while, they just sort of played with it, and then the mouse got back, and then finally, the final blow. We'll just leave that. We don't show the final blow because the RSPCA's watching.
The best thing about that is you looked surprised when that came up on the screen. Oh, here it is. Yeah. That's great preparation.
Jeez, you've really prepared for this episode of Sunday Footy Show. Kalen Ponga, what were your thoughts on him? It was a milestone match.
Well, early on, when they got him some quality ball down that left side, he looked unstoppable. This was early. It was like a training go-up. He just shows his class. He's one of the best attacking players in the world, if not, he'd be in the top 3 attacking players. When he gets his hands on the ball in the right places, in particular down that left side, look at this. There is nothing doing. The speed and the footwork, he is just all class. Really happy for him, 100 games. Whenever he gets the ball in the right situations, the Knights look like a totally different team. And I've got to say, the selfless act to rule himself out of Origin has done wonders for the Knights. So well done to Kalen and well done on 100 games.
And in celebration of his 100th game for the Knights, he had the kicking tees that he signed. And so he had 7 of them that he'd signed, and then he had a spare one, the number 8, that he wouldn't give away because he needed it. But it was so nice to see him go up to all the kids, or they gave it to the ball kids to give out to all the kids.
You saw the kids in the crowd.
Absolutely. We went and spoke to some of them. They were beside themselves.
Didn't help his goal kicking.
No.
Well, you didn't help him.
I know. I'm sorry, KP. I put the mock on you. Well, last week he kicked 11 from 11, which equals someone's record. Someone was a bit filthy. I put the mock on him.